Welcome to this English learning story. Today you will listen to a mystery. The language is simple, the pace is slow, and the story will help you practice useful expressions. Our story is called The Silent Motel. It is a story of travel, of tiredness, and of fear. You will learn hotel and travel words. You will practice short sentences that can help you in real life. Imagine a driver named Jack. He is alone. He has been driving for many hours. The road is dark, the night is cold, and the fog is heavy. Jack needs to stop. He needs a room. He needs to sleep. But the place he finds is not safe. It is not normal. It is silent, too silent. And in this silence, Jack will discover something strange. In this lesson, you will not only follow Jack's story, but you will also repeat important phrases. At the end, you will know new English words, and you will also feel the mystery of the night. Now let us begin. Jack was driving alone on a long road at night. The fog was heavy, and the headlights of his car showed only a short distance ahead. The road seemed endless. Jack was tired, and his eyes felt heavy. The car engine was the only sound. Jack turned on the radio, hoping for music or a voice, but there was nothing, only static noise. He turned it off, and the silence returned. "I am tired. I need to stop," Jack whispered. His voice sounded small inside the empty car. He opened the window for some air, but the cold night entered quickly. The air felt strange, almost alive, so he closed the window again. Jack looked at his phone. The screen showed no signal. He could not call anyone. He could not check a map. He was alone on the road. Minutes passed. Then, through the fog, he saw a small light. At first, it was weak. Then it grew stronger. It was a neon sign. The red letters said, "Motel." One letter was broken and blinked on and off. Relief filled Jack's chest. Finally, a place to rest. He turned the wheel and drove down a narrow road that led to the building. The motel was small and old. Some windows were dark, and one had a weak yellow light. Jack parked the car and turned off the engine. The silence was heavy again. He felt a shiver as he stepped out of the car and walked toward the front door. Jack opened the door of the motel and stepped inside. The air was colder than outside, and the smell of dust and old wood filled his nose. The lobby was small and empty. A clock ticked slowly on the wall, and a bell sat on the front desk. He pressed the bell. The sharp sound echoed through the room. Then silence returned. Jack looked around, but no one came. After a moment, a door behind the desk opened, and a woman appeared. She walked slowly and looked directly at Jack. Her hair was neat, her clothes were simple, and her face showed no emotion. A small tag on her shirt said, "Sarah." Jack cleared his throat. "Hello," he said. "I need a room for one night." The woman gave a small smile, but it did not feel warm. Her eyes studied him carefully. Finally, she nodded and said, "Good evening. Are you alone?" "Yes," Jack answered. "Just me." Sarah placed a large book on the desk and pushed it toward him. The cover was cracked and old. "Please sign," she said softly. Jack picked up the pen. It was very cold in his hand. He wrote his name, Jack Miller. Then he stopped. He tried to remember the date but could not. He looked at the clock on the wall, but it showed only the time. Sarah tapped the page gently. "It is late," she said. "Just write your name." Jack finished writing and gave the pen back. Sarah opened a drawer and took out a metal key. The tag said, "Room 7. She placed it on the desk. "Room 7, she said. "Second floor. Turn left. It is at the end of the hall." Jack picked up the key. It was heavy and cold. "Thank you," he said. "Do you have Wi-Fi here?" Sarah tilted her head and her smile faded. "Sometimes," she answered, "but tonight the signal is weak." "That's okay," Jack said quickly. "I just need sleep." Sarah nodded. "Sleep is good," she said, "but please keep your voice low. The walls are thin. Our guests like quiet." Jack turned toward the hallway. A long corridor stretched into the darkness, with one light blinking at the far end. He thought he saw a shadow move for just a second, but when he blinked, the hallway was empty again. He looked back, but Sarah was no longer watching him. Her eyes were fixed on the empty page of the book where his name was written. Jack climbed the stairs slowly. Each step made a soft creak, as if the wood had not been touched for years. The hallway on the second floor was narrow, with old wallpaper that had begun to peel at the edges. A single light flickered above him, making the shadows on the walls move like they were alive. He walked past room 3, then room 5, until he reached room 7. He stopped and held the key tightly in his hand. For a moment he felt someone behind him. He turned quickly, but the hallway was empty. Still, the air was heavy, as if eyes were watching from the shadows. Jack unlocked the door and stepped into his room. It was small and simple. A bed, a wooden chair near the window, and a lamp on a table. The air smelled of old soap and dust. The mattress looked hard, but at that moment, Jack only cared about resting. He placed his bag on the chair and tried the lamp. The light flickered but stayed on. Then he checked the window. Outside, the fog covered most of the parking lot. He could barely see his car, and the neon sign blinked red through the mist. As Jack sat on the bed, he heard something. Footsteps in the hallway. Slow, steady, heavy footsteps. He froze and listened. The sound stopped in front of his door. His heart beat faster. Jack stood and whispered, "Hello, who's there?" There was no answer. He opened the door a little and looked out. A man was standing at the far end of the hallway. The man's face was in shadow. He did not speak. He did not move. He only looked at Jack. Jack tried to be polite. "Good evening," he said with a weak smile. The man gave no reply. After a long moment, he slowly stepped backward into a room, and the door closed with a creak. Jack shivered. Something about the silence felt wrong. No voices, no TVs, no music, no sound at all. Just footsteps that came and went without reason. He closed his own door quickly and locked it again. Back inside the room, Jack tried to calm himself. Maybe the man was just another tired traveler, he thought. Maybe everyone here liked peace and quiet, but deep down, Jack felt something different. The quiet was not peaceful. It was heavy, like a warning. He lay on the bed and pulled the blanket over himself. His eyes began to close when a knock sounded at the door. 3 soft knocks. Jack sat up quickly. His throat felt dry. "Who is it?" he called. Silence. He stood and walked slowly to the door. He kept the chain on and opened it just a little. The hallway was empty. Only the flickering light at the end blinked on and off. Jack closed the door again, faster this time, and locked it. He returned to the bed, but his heart would not calm. He whispered to himself, "It's too quiet," and then he saw it. On the small table beside the bed, there was a book with a brown cover that he was sure had not been there before. The word diary was written on the front. Jack stared at it. His body was cold. Slowly he reached out his hand. The mystery of the Silent Motel was just beginning. Jack touched the cover of the diary with a shaking hand. The leather was dry and rough, and the word diary was written in faded letters. He sat on the bed, took a deep breath, and opened the book. The first page had only a few words, written in old, thin handwriting. "Do not stay. Do not trust them." Jack frowned. He turned the page. More words appeared. "The motel is not safe. We are still here. We cannot leave." A cold shiver ran down his back. He looked at the door, then at the window, as if expecting someone to appear, but the room was empty. He closed the book quickly and placed it back on the table. "This is crazy," he whispered to himself. "Maybe it's just a joke. Maybe someone forgot it here." Trying to ignore the diary, Jack prepared for bed. He took off his shoes, placed them near the door, and lay down on the hard mattress. The blanket was thin, but it covered him enough. The silence was deep. No cars outside, no voices in other rooms, no sound at all. Jack closed his eyes, but his body would not relax. Then he heard it again. Footsteps in the hallway. Slow, heavy steps moving across the carpet. They stopped in front of his door. Jack sat up quickly. His heart raced. He listened closely. Nothing. The steps had stopped. He stood, walked to the door, and put his ear against it. Silence. Then, very softly, 3 knocks. Jack jumped back. "Who is it?" he shouted. No answer. Only silence. He unlocked the door quickly and opened it. The hallway was empty. The flickering light at the end blinked on and off. But this time, he was sure. He felt someone had just been there. He closed the door again and locked it. His hands were shaking. He returned to the bed, but then his eyes froze. The diary was back on the table, but now it was open. The pages moved by themselves as if touched by invisible fingers. They stopped on one line, written in fresh ink. "No one leaves." Jack's breath caught in his throat. He whispered the words out loud. "No one leaves." He tried to push the diary away, but the book felt heavier than before. He stood and threw it onto the chair by the window. Then he went back to the bed, trying to convince himself it was just his imagination. But as he lay down again, the sound of footsteps returned, not only in the hallway. They were above him, moving across the ceiling. Slow, dragging steps, walking back and forth. Jack covered his ears, but the sound was inside the walls now, inside the floor, inside the room itself. The motel seemed alive, and it was breathing with him. He looked toward the chair. The diary was glowing faintly in the dark. Jack knew he could not ignore it any longer. Jack walked slowly to the chair. The diary was glowing faintly, as if the letters on the cover were alive. He hesitated, then picked it up again. The pages turned by themselves, stopping on a place that looked wet with fresh ink. The words were clear. We all came here. We all wanted rest. We never left. Jack's hands began to shake. He whispered to himself, "This is not real. It cannot be real." But the words on the page seemed to grow darker, almost burning into the paper. He turned the page. New sentences appeared, written as if someone was writing them at that very moment. We were travelers. We were drivers. We were alone. Now we are guests. Jack dropped the diary onto the floor. He stepped back, breathing fast. "Guests?" he said. "What kind of guests?" The pages of the diary continued to move. They stopped again, and this time only 4 words appeared. "You are next, Jack." His blood turned cold. The book knew his name. It was impossible, yet the letters were clear, shining in the dim light. Jack kicked the diary away from him. "No!" he shouted. "Leave me alone." His voice echoed through the room, but then it was swallowed quickly by the heavy silence. Suddenly he heard a whisper. It did not come from outside the door or from the hallway. It came from inside his head. The whisper said his name, soft and slow. Jack. He covered his ears, but the voice continued. "Stay, Jack. Stay with us." He ran to the door and pulled at the handle. The lock turned, but the door would not open. He pushed with all his strength, but it felt like the door was part of the wall itself. Then he looked toward the window. The curtain had opened on its own. Outside, the fog was thick, but now shapes were standing in it. Figures, still and silent, like shadows with faces. They were watching him. Jack froze. He could not move. His breath was short, his body tense. He whispered, "They are outside." Slowly he turned back to the room. The diary was no longer on the floor. It was back on the chair, closed, waiting for him. He did not want to touch it again, but his eyes were drawn to it. His hand moved without control. He opened it once more. The page was blank at first, but then words appeared, one by one, as if written by an invisible hand. Sarah knows. Sarah keeps the keys. Sarah never leaves. Jack's mouth went dry. Sarah, the woman at the desk. She had given him the key. She had told him to stay quiet. She had told him not to leave after midnight. His heart pounded as he whispered, "She is part of this. She is not normal." Jack backed away from the diary. The lamp flickered, and then the room went dark. Only the red glow of the motel sign outside lit the room, blinking on and off through the fog. Jack stood in the darkness, trapped between the diary, the locked door, and the watching figures outside. And in the silence, Sarah's voice whispered from nowhere, soft and calm, "You cannot leave, Jack. Not now." The voice of Sarah echoed in the darkness. It was soft, but it carried weight, as if the walls themselves were speaking. Jack stood frozen in the middle of the room, his breath short and his body shaking. Then the door handle began to move. Slowly, it turned left and right, pressing against the chain lock. Jack stared at it, unable to breathe. The chain rattled once, then stopped. "Jack," Sarah's voice whispered again, closer now, almost at his ear. "You cannot leave. You must stay. You must rest." Jack shook his head. "No, I don't want to stay." "Open the door and let me out." His voice was loud, but the motel swallowed it, making it sound weak. The door opened just an inch, held by the chain. Through the gap, Jack saw Sarah's face. Her smile was thin, her eyes sharp and cold. "You already signed," she said quietly. "Your name is in the book. The motel keeps you now. You are one of us." Jack slammed the door shut and the chain rattled. He locked it again, his hands trembling. He stepped back, trying to calm himself, but Sarah's voice continued through the walls. "No one leaves, not after midnight." Jack turned to the window, desperate for another way out. The fog pressed against the glass like a living thing. The shapes outside were clearer now. He could see faces, pale, empty, silent faces. They stood in the mist, watching, waiting. He hit the window with his fist. The glass did not break. It did not even move. One of the figures outside lifted a hand slowly and pointed straight at him. Jack stumbled backward. His bag fell to the floor. The diary was on the bed again, open, as if waiting. The pages turned quickly, then stopped. The words on the page glowed in the dim light. Jack Miller, room 7. His knees felt weak. "No, no, I am not part of this," he whispered. But the book already had his name, his room, his place in the motel. The lamp flickered violently, then exploded with a sharp crack. Darkness filled the room, broken only by the red blink of the neon sign outside. On, off, on, off. Jack grabbed his bag and ran to the door. He pulled at it with all his strength, and this time it opened. The hallway stretched in front of him, long and empty. He stepped into the corridor, his footsteps echoing against the walls. He ran toward the stairs, passing door after door. Room 9, room 11, room 13. Each door seemed to hum with quiet whispers behind it. At the end of the hall, he reached the stairs and hurried down. His footsteps were quick, but another set of steps followed him, slow, steady, always behind him. He turned, but the hallway was empty. Jack reached the lobby. The desk was empty. The book Sarah had given him was gone. The bell was gone. The clock was gone. The place looked older, emptier, almost abandoned. He ran to the front door and pulled the handle. Locked. He shook it again and again, but it did not move. Then the bell rang. Ding, ding, ding. The sound echoed through the empty lobby, sharp and endless, and Sarah's voice filled the room once more. "You cannot leave, Jack. You belong to the motel now." Before we continue with Jack's story, let us pause for a moment. The Silent Motel is not only a mystery, it is also a lesson in English. Let's remember the important words and phrases that Jack has already used. When Jack arrived at the motel, he went to the desk and asked for a room. This is called check-in. At every hotel or motel, you check in when you arrive. Jack said, "I need a room for one night." That is a useful phrase for travel. When Sarah gave him the key, it was not a card, but a heavy metal key. In English, we call it a room key. If you stay in a hotel, you will always need a room key. Jack could say, "This is my room key." But very soon, Jack felt something strange. The motel was quiet, too quiet. In English, you can say, "It's too quiet." This phrase means the silence is not normal. It makes you feel uncomfortable. Jack also looked at his phone and saw no service. In English, we say, "No signal." You can use this anywhere, not only in a scary motel. Imagine you are traveling and your phone does not work. You can say, "I have no signal." Finally, Jack tried to leave. He pulled at the door, but it would not open. He said, "I can't leave." This is a strong and simple sentence. It can describe a physical situation, like a locked door, or even a feeling, like being stuck in a problem. Now let's put all of these phrases together in one short story. I want to check in. I take my room key, but it is too quiet. I look at my phone and I have no signal. I try the door, but I can't leave. These are Jack's words, but they are also your words. Repeat them and remember them. They are simple, clear, and powerful. Now imagine that you are Jack. You are the one who entered the motel. You are the one who spoke to Sarah. You are the one who holds the cold metal key in your hand. I will guide you through his steps. You will listen, repeat, and practice. You arrive at the desk. Sarah looks at you with her quiet eyes. She does not speak. You must speak first. Say, "I want to check in." Good. Say it again, more clearly. "I want to check in." Sarah gives you a key. It feels heavy and cold. You look at it in your hand. Repeat after me. "This is my room key." Now say, "Thank you for the room key." You walk down the hallway. It is long. It is dark. You see shadows, but no one speaks. You whisper to yourself, "It's too quiet here." Say it again. "It's too quiet." One more time. "It's too quiet here." Later, you sit on the bed and check your phone. The screen is empty. There is no connection. Say, "I have no signal." Again, louder this time. "I have no signal." You try the door. It does not open. You push. You pull. Still, it does not move. Your voice rises as you say, "I can't leave." Now repeat it firmly. "I can't leave." One last time. "I cannot leave this place." Now let's put it all together, step by step. Repeat this short story with me. I want to check in. This is my room key. It's too quiet here. I have no signal. I can't leave. Say it once more, smoothly and clearly. I want to check in. This is my room key. It's too quiet here. I have no signal. I can't leave. Well done. These sentences are now yours. They are simple, useful, and real. You can use them in travel, in hotels, and even when you talk about difficult situations in life. Jack is still trapped inside the Silent Motel, but you are learning. His fear becomes your practice. His words become your words. Jack stood in the empty lobby. The old desk was silent, the book was gone, and the clock no longer ticked. The front door was locked tight, and the fog outside pressed against the glass like a heavy curtain. He turned quickly as footsteps echoed behind him, but the lobby was empty. Then Sarah appeared, walking slowly from the shadows. Her face was calm, and her smile was thin. "You cannot leave, Jack," she said softly. "You belong here now." Jack shook his head, gripping his bag tightly. "No, I am not one of you. Let me go." Sarah tilted her head, and her eyes seemed to grow darker. "You signed your name," she whispered. "The motel has it. That is enough." Jack looked around in desperation. The walls seemed to close in, and the silence grew deeper, as if the building itself was breathing. Faces appeared faintly in the fog outside, silent guests who had never left. Their pale eyes watched him without blinking. He backed away, his breath shaking. "This place is wrong. I will not stay." But even as he spoke, the lights flickered once, then went out completely. The only glow came from the red motel sign outside, blinking on and off, on, off, on, off. The sound of the bell echoed through the darkness. Ding, ding, ding. Jack's voice was lost in the silence. His body grew heavy. The shadows closed around him. The Silent Motel had chosen another guest. And then silence again. The Silent Motel is more than a place in a story. It is also a lesson. Jack wanted rest, but the silence around him was not peace. It was danger. In life and in language learning, we must trust our instincts. If something feels wrong, listen to that feeling. If something feels right, follow it. Silence can be good, but it can also hide something deeper. Jack discovered this too late. You, however, can take the lesson. Pay attention, be aware, and trust your voice. Before we end, let us repeat the most important phrases one more time. I want to check in. This is my room key. It's too quiet. I have no signal. I can't leave. These are simple words, but they are powerful. They are useful in travel, in real life, and even in stories. Learning English can sometimes feel like entering a strange place. At first it is new, silent, and uncertain. But the more you explore, the more confident you become. Each word is a step forward. Each phrase is a light in the fog. Remember, you are not trapped. You can always grow, always learn, always leave fear behind. Jack could not escape the Silent Motel, but you can escape silence by speaking English with confidence. Thank you for listening. Thank you for practicing. And thank you for learning. This is only one story. Many more stories are waiting for you. Keep going, keep practicing, and never stop learning.